your insurance company and then the healthcare provider. So by forcing those two to be in the loop, you have such bureaucratic overhead that it would cost way too much to really get into everybody's case. In other words, you'd have to have so many people looking at each individual situation too closely, and it's just untenable. There's not enough. The math doesn't work out, so they end up having one-size-fits-all plans, and that's how most insurance plans are written. How does this reform help that? I don't see how these current reforms that are in the House and Senate right now are going to alleviate that problem.
I don't see how they're going to alleviate it either.
Yeah. And it seems to me that's one of the root causes of all the costs being driven up and the inefficiencies. So I don't know. Maybe it's baby steps or something, but it would seem to me that offering more choice instead of less would be a better approach. Of course, the Democrats are arguing that they are giving more choice. They're using the competition ruse, saying, "See, here's another player in the." But the problem is,
it's going to start off as being more choices, but as the government slowly but surely takes over the nationalized healthcare system, there'll be fewer choices. Yeah.
Yeah. But then again, but the benefit then is if they mandate that everyone has to have insurance, and they're not saying it has to be done overnight, but they are moving pretty fast. I mean, to go from 40-some million people not covered to having them, I think 97% was the goal after I don't know how many years, a couple of 3, 4, not too long. They wanted to get most people covered by mandating coverage. That seems like a lot of people. That's going from about 16% of the population or so uncovered to now down to 3% uncovered. Just like anything, there's going to be pain in that kind of transition, and there's going to be some people who are free riders, and there's going to but we have that now. Actually, that problem might actually be better. You could argue that problem's going to get better. The free rider problem would get better because we got so many free riders now. Especially the emergency rooms are crowded with people who are going in for what are really not emergencies.
That's correct. And that's because they can only get care at the emergency room, so that's where they go.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I appreciate your even-handed look at this, and even though you favor more government coverage and at least participation, what are you? Before we get to let me address another kind of small sub-issue before we go to the wider question. What do you think about the idea of the vouchers and the HSAs as viable options, whereas you just hand money out in the form of a grant, but that has to be used on health care, and if you don't use it, it could go into an account. Do you like that approach?
Oh, that approach is working just fine. I think it's a great way. It's working just fine in the schools, giving vouchers for private schools. Voucher programs are just fine. Yeah. So in theory, then, it's just another aspect of the private. In other words, why don't we throw the free marketeers a bone in this whole thing and say, sure, okay, we'll spend more covering some people who for basic care, which I'm not an anarchist. I like the idea of being able to rescue people from emergencies, whether their house is on fire or whether they're having a heart attack, and go into an emergency room. And I don't mind having public coverage for that, because it's tough to get that kind of a service, on a private kind of a scenario. But if you're going to cover more people by public insurance,
can we also inject some more freedom in other areas of the economy? And I don't see any willingness at all by the Democrats in to increase those private freedoms, on the private side, with the vouchers or HSAs or competition across state lines by the private insurers. I don't see any movement at all in that direction. I think it's because they think they got a juggernaut and that no one can stop them. What do you think?
And they're right.
Yeah.
They're right.
They're right. They got more percentage of they got 60 senators, and though a couple of them are sick on the Democratic side, so I don't know if they're going to make the votes, and they've got a strong majority in the House. So nothing can stop that, because that's pretty much that's majority vote anyway, to pass something. So yeah, they are, I think, acting like FDR, and I think Obama thinks he's FDR. He wants to be the next FDR, and that FDR got a lot of things passed and a lot of government institutions created that essentially have never gone away since the middle 30s. And
that's correct.
And I think he's making his move to create as many of those institutions as possible, and nationalize as many industries as possible, and institute regulation as much as possible, and just let the chips fall. He knows there's not enough money. In other words, I think he was making a joke on the All-Star game the other night. I watched the All-Star game, and Obama was in the booth, and he was being cool. I mean, I like the guy. I like personally. I think he's a great guy. You can just tell. But he was talking to the announcers, and he said, and someone made a joke. The National League hasn't won for 11 years. You think there's or 13 years or something? Is there a bailout in the works for the National League? He goes, and Obama says, "Nah, we're out of money." So what? But I think that wasn't so much a joke. That was funny because it was real. They are out of money. They've been printing it and borrowing it, to pay for all this stuff. And we haven't talked about that, but of course this $1 or $1.6 trillion or whatever this thing's supposed to cost over the next 10 years is really as unaffordable as anything else they've been doing.
Yeah, 1.5 trillion over 10 years, and although they're proposing taxes on the wealthy in large part, that's supposed to cover it, I don't see that being the case. It's going to be taxed. Everybody will get taxed.
Yeah, there's not even if you raise the taxes, there's really not enough money to pay for all the stuff he wants to do. So that's where I think he's really trying to be FDR. He knows that it's not fundable. But it doesn't matter. If he creates the institution, he thinks it'll stick. And that's, I think, what he really wants. And, at least on the healthcare side, at least you're not thinking that's all bad, because then there would at least be a mechanism to cover for basic needs. Which is, I think, and I'm trying to speak for you, and I'm probably not doing it well, but let me try. I think your heart is in the place where we're not going to get all things for everybody and MRIs, on every block. We're not going to get that. But we are going to get through all this, and when all the money shakes out and all the finances come out, we're still going to end up with better basic care for almost everybody than we had before. And is that something is that the kind of benefit you're looking at?
Yes, I am. The amount of savings that you get just out of lack of profit motive is extraordinary. As we discussed on a previous show, the Medicare administration costs are 3